thing on? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the O Show podcast. Always bet on Zach and Jack. I put your name first.
My
this
name
time.
first.
That's right.
I
Look at you
appreciate
with
it.
your Penguin Magoo hat, you Ripper Magoo. This is episode 484 of the podcast. We are presented by betonline.ag. Sign up for that 50% bonus by using the promo code capital BLEAV50. It is finally that time, Zach. It is championship week. We got the AFC championship game. We got the NFC championship game. We got the WWE Royal Rumble match on pay-per-view live on Saturday night. Do you want to review last week's games first? Because we probably had the greatest NFL playoff weekend of all time. All four games came down to the wire.
Absolutely. I'll do the score super quick because that was the least interesting part. I won 5 of 10, so I was 50%, and you 4 of 9. It was super close, and both of us were basically just a coin flip, so that's not important. But oh my God, what an incredible weekend! Joe Burrow comes back and upsets the Tennessee number 1 seeded Tennessee Titans with a go-ahead field goal. The Niners, Jimmy G leads a game-winning drive in a freezing tundra out in Lambeau to win a game. The Kansas City Chiefs, Buffalo Bills might be one of the greatest offensive shows we've ever seen. The last, 2 minutes? Was it 25 points in the last 2 minutes of regulation? Kansas City down by 3 with 13 seconds left. Drives at 50 yards to get into field goal range for a field goal, and then wins the coin toss and wins in overtime against the Bills. Tom Brady almost making an Atlanta Falcons level comeback, being down 27-3, scoring 14 points in a minute 26 seconds. And it weren't for one of the best passes of Stafford's career, Tom Brady would have pulled off the impossible again. It was every single game this weekend was incredible. That's all I have to say. If you want to give more thoughts on the weekend, I was just
25 points in the last minute and 50 seconds between the Chiefs and the Bills. You got to feel for Josh Allen. You got to feel for Josh Allen's family sitting in the box. They showed them what they thought was going to be a game-winning touchdown with 13 seconds left. And then Pat Mahomes, all it took was 2 snaps to get his team in field goal range. And again, it was like a 49-yard field goal. It had to be perfect, right down the middle, Adam Vinatieri style almost, down the middle to tie the game. And then Pat Mahomes just goes down, and the Bills don't even get a chance. Josh Allen doesn't even get a chance to redeem himself in overtime, which sucks. I'd be devastated if I was a Buffalo Bills fan. And then you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers down 27-3, more than halfway through the third quarter, and Tom Brady finds a way. The fumble late allows them to tie the game in just under 2 minutes to go.
4 fumbles total by the Rams. They definitely try to give that game away.
I mean, nobody really deserved to win that game, but at the end, Matthew Stafford just throws it up, Hail Mary style down the middle of the field.
Amazing
Cooper
receiver.
Game-winning field goal, 30-27. I didn't really watch too much of the Bengals-Titans game, but back and forth, Joe Burrow in the AFC Championship game, first AFC title game for the Bengals in 30-plus years. I mean, it's going to be very fun to watch this weekend how both these games play out. I think they're going to be a lot more predictable and a lot more they're going to go towards the side of predictability this week, I think, with both the 49ers and Rams. That NFC matchup nobody thought was going to happen, right? Out of all the teams that we talked about all season long, the Buccaneers, the Cowboys, the Packers, the Rams were always the dark horse. But, when you look at Rodgers and Prescott and Brady, even Kyler Murray and the Cardinals were 7-0 to start the season. They were supposedly going to be the favorites, the number 1 seed in the NFC, even leading up to like week 14, week 15. Everybody's like the Cardinals are definitely the strongest team in the NFC. They mopped the floor with them at home at SoFi. And then they take care of business on the road in Tampa Bay at Raymond James in pretty remarkable fashion. They almost blew it late like the Falcons did in 2017, but they found a way to win the football game. And now they get to host the NFC title game Sunday night on Fox against Jimmy G.
Win. SoFi in the SoFi Super Bowl. They might get a home Super Bowl just like we got last year at Tampa. They can pull this off. But speaking of those games, though, which game do you want to talk about first for our predictions? Because I actually think one of them we're at 100% agreement. But when we talked about earlier, I think one we're on opposite ends of the spectrum here.
Yeah, let's start with the day cap. So it's going to be the Bengals taking on the Chiefs at Arrowhead. This
Mm-hmm.
is a what is this, a 7.5 point spread, something like that?
7 point spread
It's
according
a
to our
seven
friends at
point
Bet Online
spread, and
AG.
unfortunately, as much as my heart wants to go with Joe Burrow, my brain and my logistics has to go with Pat Mahomes at home. What he did with 13 seconds left, going
Yeah.
back and forth, tit for tat, mano a mano, with one of the best up and coming quarterbacks in the game today, and Josh Allen. Like, they were dead to rights in that game. 13
Mm-hmm.
seconds. He literally only had 2 snaps with 2 timeouts left, and he managed to make it work and then wins the game
Yes.
in his only drive in overtime. I mean, come on. And at home at Arrowhead, he's been there before. He's been there 4 straight years at Arrowhead,
Four straight
hosting
AFC
AFC
Championship
championship
games.
games. Joe Burrow does not have the experience. I always lean on experience and I always get burned because of it. But this week, I'm certain that Pat Mahomes is heading to his third consecutive Super Bowl. It just has to happen.
No, I agree. I do think the Bengals have some sort of it factor. So with a spread as generous as 7, I think the Bengals cover. I think it's within a 7 point game. And I thought the Chiefs defense was a bit better this year, but after seeing what Buffalo did, I get Josh Allen is amazing. Don't get me wrong, but I know Joe Burrow is awesome too. So I'm going with the over at 54 in that game. And yeah, guys, I think the Chiefs win. I think they get to their third straight Super Bowl, but I think the Bengals cover. Not a super close game, but at a 7 point spread, I think the Bengals and Joe Chill covers that.
It's funny. I did not think that the Chiefs Bills, even though they put up record numbers the week before against the Patriots and Steelers, respectively, were going to go over the four. What was it, 54? The over under in the Chiefs Bills game. You could
Yeah,
have
that
you could have
was
bet the over at 75 and have been correct.
which
So
is
yeah,
crazy.
I'm going to go the over in this game as well. The Bengals have obviously shown promise offensively the last 2 weeks, even though it's kind of like the 49ers. You have two really cheap wins against two teams that did not play well as they should have at home, especially Aaron
Yes.
Rodgers. I know it was 0 degrees outside and I couldn't do that, but I don't know, like 10 points, and you're supposed to be the greatest quarterback in the league, especially this year for what you did. I don't know. I think the Bengals got a weak team in the Raiders. I think they took advantage of a poor offensive day from the Tennessee Titans. We
Three
talked about it last
interceptions
week.
by
Yeah, I mean,
Tannehill.
we talked about it last week. Tannehill is nothing without his core. I mean, even what Derrick Henry was not Derrick Henry.
Yeah, because he was his first game back, and you thought the way you would help Derrick Henry get back is Tannehill, have a good game, make them go for the pass so that, Derrick Henry is more free lanes. Normally it's the opposite. You use the running game to open up the pass game. It was Tannehill's job, and he starts the game. The first play of the game is him throwing an interception, and his last play of the game was him throwing the interception. I feel so bad for Mike Vrabel. I mean, his star running back get hurt. I mean, talk about injuries. He had, 97 players on his roster in this season, the most people on IR ever, and he still ended up being the number 1 seed with Ryan Tannehill playing as awful as he did at the majority of the season. He has to feel like legitimately, like even just one less thing went wrong, I could, be competing for a Super Bowl right now, because I would have a home playoff game against, there with a defense, with a incredible defensive pass rush to fight off against Patrick Mahomes. And I don't know. If you're Tennessee, clearly the head coach is not the issue, and clearly it's not the defense or like your running back. But it'll be interesting what Tennessee's doing, because it feels like if they've I don't know, they feel stuck. They feel like the coach is so good, but everything else besides the coach just feels so not right.
It did not feel like they were the clear favorites out of the AFC. I mean, we've
No,
said it
which it
since
should
day
be.
one, like they're the number 1 seed, but I've always felt like, okay, Burrow got past Las Vegas. This is going to be a fun game. He could
Mm-hmm.
legitimately go to the AFC title game. I remember we were talking to Michael Turner, the comedian that we saw performed at Stand Up Live. He's actually in Phoenix tonight, actually, this Thursday night in Phoenix doing his show. But he's a huge Cincinnati Bengals fan, and he's like, we're going to make it to at least the AFC title game. I'm thinking, I'm like, I don't think about it. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. They're playing the
Tennessee,
Titans,
yeah.
right? Like, there's a chance. And they squeaked by. I don't think they're squeaking by in Kansas City, though. I think this is where the end of the line comes. I'm with you. I think they cover the spread at 7, and I will go the over this time because I was dead wrong last week. And I think the Kansas City Chiefs secondary, as much as they prompt them up, both Chris Collinsworth and Al Michaels, I think that They're not as good as they are pumping them up to be. And I think it's going to be a very high-scoring offensive football game.
I agree. So, yeah, that's the one where the AFC title game, I think we fully agree on. It's the NFC title game where I think we are complete opposites in every single regard. So
it's weird how we're opposites because the San Francisco 49ers, as big as, you want to hop on the bandwagon, going to school in San Francisco, whatever, you're a Jets fan, okay? You're a Jets fan. You're bandwagoning to the 49ers.
I'm not saying a lot of people are.
Listen. Let's run down the highlights, all right? They beat the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs. Big
so
deal.
Good.
They did. Big deal. They beat the Dallas Cowboys by a touchdown, less than a touchdown, 23-17. They squeaked by because the Cowboys shot themselves in the foot again. No surprise there.
Okay.
The following week, in 0-degree weather, got to give him credit there, but Aaron Rodgers did not perform as well as he should have. 13-10, you put up 13 points at Lambeau Field. 9 times out of 10, you ain't winning that football game in the postseason, okay? They squeaked by. 2 wall scrapers, okay? 2 wall scrapers of a win, and now you expect to beat a Los Angeles Rams team that put up big numbers against the Arizona Cardinals, put up big numbers on the road against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, okay? You beat Kyler Murray, who was the number 1 seed going into Week 14, and then you beat the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady. I don't think the San Francisco 49ers are ready for this game at SoFi Stadium.
So, to let our audience know, the 49ers are 3.5-point dogs against the Rams, and the over-under is 46. Before I talk about why you're wrong about everything, would you like to tell us what you think of both the spread and the over-under for our audience, please?
So the over-under is 45.5, and I think at SoFi Stadium, I'm going to go the over in this game. The normal me would say, just looking at these numbers, I'd go the under in this game. But it's SoFi Stadium. It's Los Angeles, California. Weather's not going to be a factor. The Rams, I know, are going to put up big points. Jimmy G, this is going to have to be the game of his life if he wants it to be interesting. And it's the NFC title game, man. It's only the second time he's been in this situation in the last 3 years, right? And this could be his last game as a San Francisco 49er. Probably will be. I think that they're going to go out with a bang. I just don't think I don't think they cover that spread at 3.5, and they definitely don't win the game. But I will take the over at 45.5.
All right, now let me explain why everything you just said will be proven wrong.
This is pivotal. This is going to end your winning streak.
No. This is why my winning streak is going to continue. So, the San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Rams are both in the NFC West, which is a division that I watch very, very closely for very many years. Being an Arizona Cardinals fan, I've seen these teams up close and personal all the time, watch tons and tons of games and footage on them both. So I know a lot about them. First fact, you talk about Jimmy G, not being all good and everything. So the San Francisco 49ers have never lost a game where he's had a 90 passer rating or better. And in the past 2 games, he's been bad. He's had a 64 passer rating between those 2 games. And they've won. So if Jimmy G just, plays his average passer rating of 90, they're going to win by that stretch. And then second, Kyle Shanahan is currently on a 7-game win streak against Sean McVay, and vicariously the Niners against the Rams. Rams and Sean McVay don't have a solution for the Niners and Kyle Shanahan. Third, Matthew Stafford has been playing great. He's been playing great. Cardinals defense, meh. Tampa Bay defense, it was the first time all stars put together all year. San Francisco 49ers held the MVP to 10 points. So, what do I think is going to happen in SoFi Stadium? Oh, also fun fact about it being in SoFi Stadium, Ticketmaster had to stop sales to people outside of the LA area because so many Bay Area San Francisco fans were buying them, and StubHub and other places have reported and aggregate stat sites that they expect 60% of the stadium at SoFi to be red, to be 49ers, and some even say 65%. So it's really a Niners home game. It's really Levi Stadium South. Finally, with all that being said, the 49ers won't just cover. They will win, get back to the Super Bowl to get their rematch 1 year removed from against Kansas City in the Super Bowl. And then I'm going with the under at 46 because I know what they're going to do. They're going to run the ball down their throat. They're going to get to Matthew Stafford without blitzing. They're going to stomp that running game. And Deebo Samuel, I don't even say Jimmy G is going to make a whole play. Jimmy G may cut one or two throws, but it'll be mainly the Deebo Samuel and George Kittle game, and they'll run roughshod over them. And San Francisco, let's see, they win like 21-17. That would be under that over.
You're going to say that Matthew Stafford is going to put up 17 points on his home turf and arguably the biggest game of his career.
Yeah, because I pretended to root for Matthew Stafford just because I hate Tom Brady, but you've heard my opinion on Matthew Stafford all season. He's Matthew Stat Patford. He is a stat patter, and outside of last week, he's really had no really big moments. I'm not going to count the Cardinals game because we both know the Cardinals at the end of the year weren't a good team. They got into the playoffs just because they were so good in the first half, but that second half, Cardinals team was not a good team. Tampa Bay, that defense was mediocre at best. So he has yet to prove anything to me. I will sing Matthew Stafford's praises if he proves me wrong and ends my streak this week. But right now, I haven't seen anything from him, from Sean McVay, or anything really from the Rams that proved to me they're any better than they were. Their defense is the defense better than it was last year? No. Is it maybe the same? Yeah. And then so it just comes down to, do you believe that Stafford and Cooper Kupp are going to generate more enough offense against an elite defense than Jimmy G, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle? And I just don't believe that. So, like I said, I think the Niners not to cover and to win. I'm going the under at 46.
Well, first of all, I don't think Matthew Stafford gives a rat's ass if he wants to prove you wrong. Because A, he doesn't know who you are. B, if he did, he would not give a shit whatsoever. 0 F's given when it comes to Zachary Kelly's take here on Always Bet on Jack and Zach. That's right. I took the first name back. Second of all, when did you become such a 49ers bandwagoneer? You are a New York Jets fan.
I'm not rooting for them. I'm just saying that I definitely think they're going to win because I've been watching that division. Believe me, they're a rival. I'm not a fan of them by any stretch, but as a rival that's been kicking my Cardinals' ass for like the past 15, 20 years, I know that the franchise well enough to know when they're elite. And I'm feeling like this team is not that worse than the 2019 team. I genuinely believe it. It took them a while to get it figured out. I'll give them that. Jimmy G was hurt in the middle of the year. They had some other injuries in the middle of the season, and they started off the season bad 3-4. They're the opposite of the Cardinals. With the first half of the season, Niners are not like this half of the season. I think this team is almost just as good as the 2019 team that if Jimmy G just makes one throw to Emmanuel Sanders, they beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So, it's not being a fan. Believe me.
You think they're going to beat the Chiefs in the Super Bowl?
No, I'm saying I think this team is as good as the team that if Jimmy Garoppolo had made one throw to Emmanuel Sanders would have won that Super Bowl. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like, I want the Rams to win so it's a competitive Super Bowl because if Jimmy G finds a way to beat the Rams in SoFi Stadium, I don't think that they stand a chance against.
He was one throw away from beating the Chiefs last year. Stop. You know what? Now I'm going to say that I'm rooting for it just because everyone's doubting the Niners that I've seen run roughshod over our division for so many years. Okay. All right. Duly noted. Anyway, that is the first half of the show. It is now time for Michael Cera halftime report.
Cue in that Michael Cera halftime report graphic, Zach. So it's AFC and NFC Championship week. It's Royal Rumble Saturday live on pay-per-view. What's the Michael Cera halftime report? Is it as juicy as this weekend?
So this is a bit of a fun one. So I just said it. Okay, Michael, what has happened in history on Michael Cera's birthday? Let's do some ancillary fun facts. And so I got a couple ones that were pretty cool. So Louis the 16th, the French king, like one of the last French kings before the French Revolution and all of that, he was crowned king on Michael Cera's birthday. The other one, it was fun in 1628. King Charles I of England signed the Petition of Rights, which was the first time a monarch ever limited their power and gave power to the people. So Michael Cera represents democracy in that regard. And then also in 1494, on his birthday, Spain and Portugal agreed to divide the New World and the Old World. And literally, Michael Cera's birthday is when the Prime Meridian was born, and we separated into the Western and Eastern hemispheres. So the last monarch before a revolution, the monarch that gave away his rights and the Prime Meridian, I'm just saying Michael Cera might have some magical power to him if all these important historical dates just happen to align with the birth of one of the greatest men to ever grace this earth. So that's my fun Michael Cera fact for today. Any thoughts before we close out this?
Well, first of all, I didn't know that this was a history class. This is supposed to be enjoyable, not school. Second of all, I cannot believe you dug that deep and found those similarities and coincidences with Michael
Cera.
Michael
Cera. He is a man that deserves all the love and adoration, and that was
whoa, as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson would do it on his WWE promo. So I contacted this guy named Willie about Michael Cera, about getting Michael Cera on the show, because I know we've talked about possibly getting him on the show pretty soon. And here's the email I received in return, and I quote, "Jack, thanks for reaching out. Michael will be doing press in support of his upcoming Hulu series, Life and Beth. And outside of that, he's not doing any press at this time. But if you'd like to be considered for the interview, please reach out to Hulu's PR team." So then I reached out to Hulu's PR team, and they have not gotten back to me yet.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
So Michael Cera may or may not be coming on the Michael Cera Halftime Report with Always Bet on Jack and Zach, presented by betonline.ag. Sign up for that 50% bonus by using the promo code capital BLEAV50 anytime soon. So I just wanted to throw that fun fact out there for you.
Hey, we're growing. Even if it's a couple of years from now, we're going to get our boy on, I believe. And that was the Michael Cera Halftime Report.
Cue out that Michael Cera Halftime Report graphic, Zach. We got a heavy-hitting second half here, I believe.
Yes, what do you want to start with? Yeah, so we'll stay in the realm of football. We'll do that one first. So a historic number. I know you're not surprised with this, but it feels like me and everyone else is. After Sean Payton announced he is no longer coming back to the Saints, there are now 9 NFL head coaching vacancies. And I thought I would get our opinion and sort of ranking like the most and least appealing jobs of the 9 available. So I'll go over
the New York Giants.
Let me go over all of them before we give our rankings.
The New York Giants.
I think we know which ones are least favorite, but so we have the New Orleans Saints, the Chicago Bears, the New York Giants, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Miami Dolphins, the Denver Broncos, and the Houston Texans. And we won't count this one, but Jerry Jones has not officially said he's bringing Mike McCarthy back. But those are
I think Mike McCarthy's job is safe at least for one more season.
Yeah, that's why I said
that one would be a stretch.
We don't technically count that one. So I'm just gonna so ignore that one. That's just a fun little thing. But of those 9, I'll let you go first. What is your ranking of those 9 jobs, that any specific you want to give? No, so I think we know your number.
I'll give you the worst, and I'll give you the most appealing. So the worst is the New York Giants. Nobody wants to go there. I mean, the Cowboys with their talent, unfortunately, they're never going to go anywhere because they choke at the playoffs every year. But they have that division wrapped up. Maybe the Eagles, maybe they can find a way. Maybe. Yeah. You know, they have talent. They showed promise this year, but even they're not ready to win a Super Bowl anytime soon. Those would be the 2 obvious contenders. Washington's not there, and the Giants Joe Judge threw a party. This guy was waiting to get out of New York and MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, New Jersey. It's not New York, it's New Jersey. That's a lie. And he's been waiting to get out of there for so long that he actually threw his entire coaching staff that got fired with them a celebratory going away party. Nobody wants to be the coach of the New York Giants. They literally, there's nothing. Daniel Jones. Dude, that guy has, when they drafted him, everyone was like, what?
You know what the
Dude,
best?
he has no arm from Yale University. That guy has no business. They have no business playing sports. They have no business having a football program.
You know
Are
what
you kidding me?
the
From Yale? No, there's no future. They have no promising future in the next 3 or 4 years.
you know what the worst part is? As bad as their roster is, they're 5 million over the cap next year already. That as bad. Their rosters are already bad, and they have to cut
They,
whatever
they,
good
they
players
can't
are to
even
get under the
bring in
cap.
old time Pro Bowlers to sell tickets. That's what Woody
No.
Johnson has done for years, and he's perfected it. Perfected it with the Jets. Tim Tebow, Le'Veon Bell, Santonio Holmes, LaDainian Tomlinson. The list goes on and on, man. You should know.
Yeah. So that's mine. So I completely agree. That's my least. Let's go with your most
The
appealing
most
before I go into mine.
appealing, though, out of all of them, out of the news I even heard today, would be the Denver
Mhm.
Broncos head coaching position.
Hmm.
Mile High, Denver, Colorado. There are rumors, and everybody has rumors. But
Mhm.
wouldn't you like it if you were handpicked to be the next head coach of the Denver Broncos and you trot out Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams on your offensive side to run that offense? Those are the rumors swirling around. Aaron Rodgers
Yeah.
wants out of Green Bay. If he does stay, he wants to be a part of a competitive team, but he does
Mhm.
not want to be a part of a rebuild. And the cracks have already been shown through that relationship with Green Bay. I don't think he's going to be a lifelong Green Bay Packer. I think the Denver Broncos, him and Devontae Adams, head over there to Mile High and do some damage.
Yeah, I can see it. So I'll go over. I can see that's definitely one of the better ones. Again, that's not a guarantee.
Aaron
so
Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes in the same division.
You're not necessarily guaranteed. Yeah, that'll be fun to see if it does happen. You have Justin Herbert there. You have Derek Carr. It'd be one of the best divisions to watch. But that's not my number one. I'll go. I told you Giants were number 9. Number 8, second least appealing, is the Saints, just because they are $70 million over the cap next year, and they already have nothing at quarterback either. So that one's not great to me. Next, after that, I would say the Texans, because you just don't know. The owner fired David Coley, seemingly doing a decent job with a horrible roster. So the owner doesn't have your back, and you don't know what's going on with the Sean Watson. You don't know if you're going to be allowed to trade for him, which means if you can't, you don't have any assets. Then after that, I'm going to say the Bears job. What is this? Ohio State. I can't remember his name. Justin Fields. You don't know much about him. You don't know how much longer that defense is going to stay good. So that one's okay. Then starting to the ones that actually have appeal. Next would be the Las Vegas Raiders. You have Derek Carr. You have some draft capital. Only issue is you're going into one of the hardest divisions of football with, at the start, probably the worst roster in that division. So that's a mixed bag. Jim Harbaugh, our buddy, our like quote unquote buddy, possibly interested in that job. So then next, I would say the Dolphins. They are the opposite of the Saints. They have $60 million in cap space next year, so they can sign a bunch of people. But people aren't feeling good about Tua, and Brian Flores was a great coach for 3 years, and the owner fired him just because he didn't agree with him about quarterback that probably most coaches agree with Brian Flores that they don't like in Tua. So that's what holds that one back for me. And then my second favorite would then be the Broncos. Broncos, they're literally just a quarterback away. So they just have a quarterback and then a better offensive-minded coach, and not the old fogey that Vic Fangio had become. No disrespect, Vic Fangio had a good tenure, but some coaches age more gracefully as the game changes around them. He just wasn't them. So just because you don't know, and because the division is so competitive, like I said, you have Derek Carr, you have Justin Herbert, you have Patrick Mahomes. That makes it number 2. And then number 1, I know there's all the turmoil. I know that they've been bad many times and stuff like that. But just knowing that I think they have $30 million in cap space, either 20 or 30. I can't remember their cap number next year exactly, but they have cap room. They have the first round draft pick again. So they have a bunch of other draft assets. And most importantly, I know he didn't shine, but that was a lot because of the coach I think they had last year. The Jacksonville Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence, best prospect since Andrew Luck. I still think that's the most appealing job. And the best part, you're in a much weaker division. You're in a division with the Colts, the Titans, and we don't know we know what they're going to really be. The Titans, we don't know they're going to be, and the Texans, who are awful. So I think that's the way I would rank those jobs. And like I said, I think we agree for the most part, just slight differences. But yeah, it'll be interesting how long, because by now, at least one or two of these jobs in a normal offseason would have been filled, but none of them have yet. So I think you're kind of right with the Broncos thing that it's not going to be until free agency and we see where people sign or people trade in the offseason that a lot of these coaches don't make a decision. They don't want to go in not knowing the roster they're going to have.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Jaguars too. I honestly think the whole mess with Urban Meyer, Jacksonville, Florida is a mess in its own right. I don't know if I'd want to go there, but yeah, I get your point. I think they're a little bit like you said, the Broncos are a quarterback away, and why not bring in Aaron Rodgers as that quarterback? The best
if you
quarterback
can,
in football, right? Or like the Jaguars, I feel like they have at least a couple more things that they're going to have to get on their plate in order to compete.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. So yeah, that was the last NFL segment. But now we have two more segments. This one I'll let you lead because I have my vague opinions. An outsider, but I think your opinion will be much more interesting. MLB lockout. There were some talks recently, but still no new CBA has been released. I believe they have until February 7th to reach an agreement before spring training and or regular season games are at risk of being delayed and or missed. And I'm curious. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about should the luxury tax be changed? Should it become a hard cap? What should the pay be, the veteran minimums, and there's a bunch of different stuff that owners and players are in the players union are fighting over. I kind of want to get your opinion because I think it'll be a lot more insightful than mine.
Listen, I personally do not care about the money at this point. It's literally about who wants more money, the players union or Major League Baseball. And at the end of the day, you're just robbing all of your fans of great entertainment. At the end of the day, it should be about the fans, and the fact that these people are just clamoring for more millions of dollars is disgusting. Rob Manfred might be one of the worst commissioners in Major League Baseball history. I will just go out and say that because, firing Ken Rosenthal, arguably the greatest journalist in baseball, at least in the last 25 years, one of the greatest baseball writers in the last 25 years, to fire him just based on vague comments that he made about you, come on. I mean, he was fired by MLB Network, was let go by them, but it was through Rob Manfred. It was through Major League Baseball. I mean, come on, right? And then, of course, the Baseball Writers Association got a lot of heat this week because Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens were left off the Hall of Fame ballot for their 10th and final year. David Ortiz, congratulations, Big Papi, first ballot Hall of Famer with the Boston Red Sox. He's the sole Hall of Famer this year. We had Jeter and Larry Walker last year. And now David Ortiz going in this year, first ballot Hall of Famer. Third straight year, first ballot Hall of Famers going in. It was Mariano Rivera and Derek Jeter, now David Ortiz. But, yeah, two of the all-time greats. The leader in Cy Young Awards with 7 is the Rocket, Roger Clemens. He's not getting in. Then the all-time home run king, 763, I think is what he ended up with. But 756 was the number that broke Hank Aaron and Barry Bonds with the Pirates and San Francisco Giants. He's not getting in. They weren't even close to getting the percent total. You need over 75%. They were at 66 and 62 respectively. Roger Clemens made an Instagram post saying that he put out the Hall of Fame 10 years ago and he got on the ballot. Did not matter to him. So he was a class act about it. I don't know if Barry Bonds gave an official word, but it's just ridiculous. Even though they cheated, MLB helped them cheat, They didn't catch them until after they retired.
And they have Hall of Fame careers, especially Barry Bonds, had a first ballot Hall of Fame career before he ever touched the juice. What was it, a couple Gold Gloves, 8 years of being an all-star, leading the league, led the league in home runs, I think once or twice, even before, when he was still on the Pirates, before he even went to San Francisco. I don't know. It's the Baseball Hall of Fame and the writers, and the fact that it's 75%, I think that's the highest percentage of any of that. And I get that. I don't want the MLB Hall of Fame, the Baseball Hall of Fame, to become the Basketball Hall of Fame, where it's way too easy to get in. Because as a basketball fan, it's way too easy to get into the Basketball Hall of Fame. So I like that the MLB is restrictive, but there's just too many, I guess, lack of a better term, politics involved in it. So I guess that's the same thing going full circle back to the lockout. I kind of just wish whatever personal politics are involved with this sort of settle themselves, because it was one of the better seasons of baseball. It was like between Shohei Ohtani, the Atlanta Braves, amazing comeback in second half of the season, and then there was someone on the San Diego Padres, right? There was a player, I'm trying to remember. There was another player I really enjoyed watching this year. But overall, just like even from a non-baseball fan, I feel like this was the first year that like really got non-baseball fans.
If you're thinking about Fernando Tatis Jr., he's like the face of baseball.
Yes.
The fact that you couldn't remember his name shows that you probably shouldn't be leading this segment of the show.
I didn't lead this segment. I just gave you my point B, but my point exactly is the fact that so I hope baseball does not get left out, because it was the first year I actually even vaguely paid attention to the sport since the Giants three pennants in 5 years run. So
that was like a decade ago. Why are you leading this segment?
I'm not leading this. I literally gave it to you to talk about.
Let's just move to the next segment. MLB is in the news for all the wrong reasons right now. I hope this lockout is resolved soon. So spring training is right around the corner. The Cactus League out here in Phoenix. I hope it's resolved. But I want to quickly touch on, because I know the last thing you want to talk about is kind of monumental to 2-year anniversary of Kobe Bryant's death. Mm-hmm. But I do want to get the Royal Rumble out of the way. My predictions. I know you have zero knowledge on this. You know, you had about 15% knowledge about Major League Baseball. You have zero knowledge on this. So I want to get this out of the way for my pro wrestling fans out there. WWE Royal Rumble live in St. Louis this Saturday night, live on pay-per-view. The road to WrestleMania starts now in St. Louis at the Rumble. You got the 30-man Royal Rumble match. You got the 30-woman Royal Rumble match. You got Brock Lesnar defending the WWE Championship against Bobby Lashley. You got Roman Reigns defending the Universal Championship against Seth Rollins. Probably the best Royal Rumble match card in a long, long time, probably the last 15, 20 years. So I want to run it down real quickly. So if you want to take a break, take a piss break, whatever you want to do, Zach, because I'm going to run through this, okay? Starting with the WWE title match, Brock Lesnar beat Big E, he beat Kevin Owens, he beat Bobby Lashley, he beat Seth Rollins in a fatal 5-way match because Roman Reigns tested positive for COVID. It was supposed to be Lesnar versus Reigns for the Universal Championship at day 1 on January 1st, 2021. Reigns gets COVID. Lesnar gets inserted into the WWE title match. Vince changes his plans. Lesnar is the WWE champion, okay? He moves to Monday Night Raw, though the plan at the end of the day is for Brock Lesnar to face Roman Reigns for a title. I hope it's both titles, maybe a title in the main event of WrestleMania at AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas, come April. So here's my prediction for Lesnar versus Lashley. This is a dream match that fans have been clamoring for a long time. 2 former heavyweights, 2 former UFC champions, Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. I think it would be the smart alternative for Brock Lesnar to beat Bobby Lashley here. Dream match, but Brock Lesnar is the bigger draw. He should be the WWE champion heading into WrestleMania season at the very least. I don't know what his status is for the Elimination Chamber heading into Mania, but he should beat Bobby Lashley. And here's the even crazier thing. I think as great of a match as it's going to be, 2 former Shield members, Reigns versus Rollins for the Universal Championship. Reigns has been the champion for over 510 days now, over a year and a half at this point. He was crowned champion in the summer of 2020. It's 2022, January 2022. I think he beats Rollins by the hair of his chin. I think it's going to be an epic battle between 2 brothers, but Reigns is going to come out on top with the Usos banned from ringside. But then Brock Lesnar, after beating Bobby Lashley as the WWE champion, is going to enter the Royal Rumble match, win the Royal Rumble match, and he will face Roman Reigns for both the Universal Championship and the WWE Championship, both titles simultaneously for the first time ever in the main event of WrestleMania 38 in Dallas, Texas. So Reigns versus Lesnar for both the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship. The women's side is going to be very, very fun to see because they have almost confirmed. This might even be worth being the main event of the entire evening. Ronda Rousey, Rowdy Ronda Rousey, making her return to World Wrestling Entertainment after 3 years off. So her and her husband, Trevor Brown, they had their the firstborn child, but she is going to be back in action this Saturday night. Hopefully it's going to be a surprise, but I think she's going to be back in action this Saturday night. She's going to win the Royal Rumble match and face Becky Lynch, the person who she dropped the title to for the Women's Championship at WrestleMania 38. So those are my predictions. Another prediction I have is that there's going to be one Forbidden Door entrant, they're calling it, in the Royal Rumble match. They're going to see an AEW star making an appearance on WWE television, probably one of their former guys, either Bryan Danielson or Chris Jericho, or even CM Punk, maybe, which would be very fun to see as a WWE fan. I'm predicting a Forbidden Door entrant. I'm predicting Corey Graves returns. Lesnar beats Lashley. Reigns beats Rollins. You see Lesnar versus Reigns for both titles at Mania. Rousey returns, and that roof is going to blow off that stadium in St. Louis. This Saturday night, WWE Royal Rumble, the road to WrestleMania begins now. Let's talk about something that happened 2 years ago on the day of the Royal Rumble, January 26th, 2020. But yeah, I mean, do you have an opinion?
The only comment I was just gonna give is just it was so exciting to see you into like so nerdy about something. It's just so funny. It's like I don't know. Like it's just like it's
this is my attire today. So we'll throw in the picture right now. Brock Lesnar showed up to Monday Night Raw for a weigh-in wearing a giant flannel and a cowboy hat.
It was that's literally what it's for.
It was unbelievable. The reigning, defending, undisputed WWE heavyweight champion of the world, Brock Lesnar. And he's going to win the WWE title match against Lashley. And then he's going to go on and lose to Reigns at Mania, which will make him the first ever simultaneous Universal and WWE champion as the head of the table, the tribal chief, Roman Reigns.
Wow. All right. That's all I had to say. Now we can go. Do you want me to introduce the last?
Yeah, like I was saying, WWE Royal Rumble 2020 was also another great event, but it took place on January 26th, 2020, which unfortunately, for many sports fans around the world, many just decent human beings around the world, was the day that Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and 7 other passengers' lives were taken in a helicopter crash just outside Thousand Oaks, California. Do you remember where you were?
Yeah, I was just getting off my shift during a GCU. I was literally just going. I was gonna grab some Panda Express before I headed to class, and the TV was on. It said Kobe Bryant died in hell. I thought it was like a TM. Like I think the worst part was that they first reported it. I think that was like the hope amongst a lot of people that were huge basketball and like Kobe Bryant fans, and where it's just like, oh, it's TMZ, it's just tabloid stuff. And I think it's when it really hurt. I think it was when NBC finally reported it. That's when you knew. Like it's like, oh, TMZ, like MTV News, and a couple other like LA Times. It's like soon as you saw like a nationally syndicated news station also report that, that's when it sunk in, because it wasn't until like a couple hours later when I was in class, and then like Apple News came and it was like CNN and NBC report Kobe Bryant and his daughter and 7 others died, and it was the day the earth stood still. As this, basketball is by far my favorite sport. I usually rooted against Kobe Bryant because I was either rooting for my Phoenix Suns or I was rooting for Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and the Boston Celtics. But he was such an incredible athlete and an amazing basketball player. And more than that, I know it's kind of a meme and sort of like overdrawn at this point, but the Mamba mentality, but just like the hard work and that he put in, just the fact that like that work ethic that he inspired to so many people, not just people in basketball, but you see people in football talk about that. You see like them like talk about Mamba mentality. You see them quoting him from 2009 being like, job's not finished, in these press conferences after these NFL games. But even then, like you'll see business peoples like Dave Portnoy, like, and then people like even further out there, like in tech fields, like you'll hear like the CEO of Twitter or stuff like that, like quote Kobe Bryant when they talk about like work ethic. And it's just, I think that's the biggest legacy that he did, is that as tragically as his early as his life went, I don't think he wasted a moment of it. And I think that's the big thing that 2 years later should sort of be the inspiration, is that, and I guess the silver lining, just this very, very sad anniversary was just that in 2 years, is that no, even though it's been 2 years, his legacy still lives on. And the idea is that every moment of the next 2 years after this, and the next 20, 30 years after this, if you really want to honor like Kobe's legacy, it's to not waste a moment like he did. Take every single second an opportunity before you and put your all in. And like I said, I was never like rooting for him. Like I said, I was always rooting against him, but even 2 years later, it just still doesn't feel right. But he's still, that sort of work ethic will always be inspirational, both in and out of sports.
I mean, it's crazy to think that he was 41 years old, like insanely young, but accomplished so much. Like an unbelievably amount of stuff. I mean, 6-time NBA champion. He was 5-time NBA champion. Were they all with Phil Jackson?
Lakers, yep. They were all with Phil Jackson. Yep, they were all
5-time NBA champion. He was an Oscar winner for Dear Basketball. Literally the first time he's ever been nominated for anything. It was a freaking Oscar in the film industry. Multiple different businesses, CEO, entrepreneur, and founder of multiple different multi-million-dollar businesses. I mean, a writer from day one, as a rookie ball player for the Los Angeles Lakers starting out, was always writing, was always adapting, was always planning for life after basketball because he never knew when it was going to end, was always a family man, 4 daughters. His wife, Vanessa, who was insanely strong during that entire time period. I mean, speaking in front of everybody at Staples Center. I mean, there was probably a private funeral, but that was like the public funeral for everyone that knew him. And of course, it was broadcasted all over ESPN and all over national television. There was definitely a private one. I think it's more tragic, obviously, the daughters that were involved, all the kids, because they were going to a basketball tournament.
Yep.
Yeah. Gianna and the others that were involved, and obviously the other parents that were on the helicopter as well. But you definitely have to think about the kids in that scenario. They did not get to fulfill any of their legacies, which is tricky because Gianna Bryant definitely had the work ethic, and she definitely was being mentored by the right people, right? The Tracy McGrady's, her father, of course, Kobe Bryant, but people that were in that circle playing in those tournaments in Southern California. Surrounding yourself with those not only basketball minds, but business minds and marketing minds and knowing how to keep your shit together. And she never really got to fulfill that dream. Who's to say she was going to be in the WNBA one day? Literally, she was 13 years old.
Yeah.
You would not know, but I guess we'll never know.
Yeah. And I just think that's the other thing that I'll say is that, in the 2 years since then, there's been the 2 years of pandemic where, because of the virus and because of, the lockdowns and the mental health that's come there, so many people have either had their lives destroyed or lost their lives prematurely as well, like after that. And so I think, this serves as a good landmark for the past that, and then the 2 years in between this event. And you mentioned with the kids, just to like really make use of your time, because it's just, you never know when like the world's just gonna take it away from you far too young, whether it's 41 or even as tragically as 13 as like Gianna was. And so I mean, obviously we goof around on this show. We have a stupid son of a bitch counter, for God's sake, on this show. But
well, let's catch up on that real quick. Stupid son of a bitch, stupid son of a bitch, stupid son of a bitch, stupid son of a bitch.
But in all seriousness, we care about, obviously me and Jack care about each other, and we care about you as an audience. So in this 2-year anniversary of tragic life, of tragic loss of life, just remember Kobe Bryant and Gianna's legacy of just hard work and making the use out of every moment, because you never know when your time is going to run dry.
Well, I mean, it's definitely a somber note. And I do want to recognize everybody that was on that plane. We got Kobe Bryant, of course, his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna Bryant. You got the baseball coach out there in Southern California, John Altobelli, and his wife and daughter as well. And then a few others that were on that flight as well. Couldn't find the names on the internet, which is bizarre to me. Like, I understand, again, like Kobe and Gianna were obviously the famous ones coming out of the Bryant family, but 9 passengers dead, including the pilot on that flight. So I do want to recognize that. And again, ending the show on a somber note, but like you said beautifully, Zach, reach out to people that you love, and don't take any second for granted, because you never know when it's going to end, right? But we got a big weekend coming up. Like we said, the Royal Rumble on Saturday. It's championship weekend on Sunday. But yes, the Rumble first. The Rumble first on Saturday in St. Louis. The reigning, defending, undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion of the world, Roman Reigns, is defending his title against Seth Rollins. And the reigning, defending, conquering, undisputed WWE World Heavyweight Champion of the world, Brock Lesnar, Cowboy Brock Lesnar, is defending his title against Bobby Lashley. Men's and women's Royal Rumble matches, respectively. We got the Bengals and the Chiefs at Arrowhead. That's the day cap. And the night cap, you got the 49ers taking on the Rams at SoFi. Should be a doozy, but for the first time ever, myself, Jack O'Hara, hit the lights, man.